Hey guys, we're outside LA City Hall where they're about to announce AB 479. It's the plant-based school lunch option.
It's being introduced by Assemblymember Adrin Nazarian and co-sponsored by Animal Hope and Legislation.
All right, good morning everyone. I'm Assemblymember Adrin Nazarian and I represent the 46th Assembly District in the San Fernando Valley. Thank you all for being here on this wonderful morning that had quite a bit of traffic. First and foremost, before I start, just want to get a sense by a show of hands, how many of you are plant-based here, plant-based diet? Fantastic, okay, quite a few of you. No, but several of you. All right, well, you're in good company because over the last few years, there's been an increased demand for plant-based meal options. Recent Nielsen data points to plant-based food sales being up 20% and topping $3.3 billion in 2018. Also, in a 2016 poll by Truven Health Analytics and National Public Radio, found that 33% of Americans were interested in decreasing their meat consumption. So between those two, research shows that reducing meat consumption can reduce risks with diabetes, cancer, and maintain a healthy weight. And growing evidence also suggests that encouraging a plant-based diet is more sustainable and environmentally friendly. On the environment, while unfortunately some of our federal leaders are refusing to acknowledge the realities of climate change, California has set an ambitious goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. One of the milestones coming up is to reduce to 40% below 1990 levels by 2030. To meet this target, more can be done, and this work needs to happen right now, starting in our schools and amongst our youth in California. Yesterday, I introduced the Healthy, Climate-Friendly, it's a mouthful of a name, Healthy, Climate-Friendly School Lunch Act incentivizing schools to offer plant-based food and milk lunch options. An environmentally friendly school lunch program directly aligns with California's climate goals. Through Assembly Bill 479, public K-12 schools would receive additional state funding to support serving plant-based choices. Under AB 479, eligible entrees and milk must be free of animal products or byproducts, including meat, poultry, fish, dairy, or eggs, and recognized by the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, as a meat alternate or non-dairy fluid milk for purposes of the federal national school lunch program. I want to get into the details of the bill, but we've been able to put together a wonderful team of supporters around this, and I want you to get an opportunity to hear from them. But in very short, this act will accomplish the following 4 or 5 main items. 1, assist the state's efforts to combat climate change. 2, improve access to healthy food options for all California students. 3, accommodate students with religious or cultural needs. 4, protect our vulnerable animals. And 5th, save on future healthcare costs. I know that costs are always a driving force in our budget and the restrictions that we have and how expansive we want our policies to be. So this is going to be one option that looks at not only making us more healthy as Californians, not only helping us meet our climate goals, but also allowing us to save money in the long run. California is a global microcosm with many different needs. The state's school meal policy should not only reflect its diversity, but also incorporate the extensive research on environmental and health benefits of plant-based nutrition. So I'm very proud of the support that this bill has brought together with an amazing group of individuals. One of them is a wonderful friend I've known for well over 25 years, had the opportunity of working with him. And I'm very proud to welcome Councilmember Paul Koretz, who has been fighting for plant-based options in Los Angeles, along with many other groups that you'll hear from shortly. Mr. Koretz.
Well, thank you, leadership on this important issue, and thank you everyone for coming out today. If you know my legislative record, you'll understand how the Healthy Climate-Friendly School Lunch Act dovetails with so many of the things I care about: global warming, human health and well-being, healthy food, and animal welfare. And I'm pleased we're joined by representatives of organizations who care about each of these issues. I'm just going to focus on one today. I wish there was a more vivid way for people to completely understand the connection between the burgers, steaks, and dairy that they're eating and the huge impact on climate change, and the rainforests that are being cut down as a direct result, and the fires burning down the homes of their neighbors. In a study released last year, methane released due to cow gas and how cow manure is handled resulted in a 37% increase in global methane emissions. Cow gas may sound funny until you realize that methane is actually 85 times more powerful than carbon dioxide in trapping heat. That's a huge portion of humanity's greenhouse gas footprint. Not only that, but the demand for livestock products is actually projected to grow by 70% by 2050. That's more than insane. That's actively suicidal for humanity. Yet this is something we could stop immediately. We could all stop eating meat products today, and with a simple habit change, we could drastically decrease our personal climate footprint. NRDC says between 2005 and 2014, by cutting beef consumption, Americans avoided the equivalent of tailpipe emissions from 39 million cars. That's 39 million cars in a country with only 325 million people. By some folks just changing what they ate 3 times a day. That's huge. And that's why last month I recently introduced a motion that will require all city concessionaires, like those at the terminals at LAX and larger entertainment venues, to offer plant-based protein options. We've received a lot of positive feedback, which isn't surprising considering in the last few years there's been a 600% increase in people who identify as vegan. And the number grows exponentially when you include people that are vegetarians, are reducitarians, try not to eat meat on Meatless Mondays. Those numbers increase even more when you look at people who are trying to deal with lactose intolerance or those that keep kosher. The positive impacts this bill will have in LA Unified alone are tremendous in a district that serves 700,000 meals a day. Each vegan meal is a reduction in greenhouse gases. At a scale of the entire state of California, the reductions will be tremendous. We know that many people will choose vegan options just because it's a delicious, alternative, healthy choice. This is the key for kids and for all of us. Just presenting the healthy option will see many kids leading healthier, climate-friendly futures. Imagine what will happen when they're educated about that choice too. More and more kids today are educated about their future, and they're engaged and want to make earth-friendly, compassionate consumer choices. But first they have to have the option. Again, I want to thank Assemblymember Nazarian for strong leadership at this important time in climate history. And I will be introducing a resolution today in support of the Healthy, Climate-Friendly School Lunch Act at City Council. Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna power through this even with climate change here. Or do we want to move it inside at this point? We're okay until it starts pouring. So now, without further ado, I'd like to take this opportunity and introduce Mark Ching, founder and CEO of Animal Hope in Legislation. Mark has gone undercover into hundreds of slaughterhouses, documenting to raise awareness about specific animal issues, rescuing where he can. And it's wonderful to actually have the opportunity to work with a constituent of mine from Sherman Oaks. Mark.
Hi, my name is Mark Ching from Animal Hope and Legislation. I want to thank Assemblymember Nazarian for taking on this measure and introducing something so landmark that will have hopefully a ripple effect, not just in California, but across the nation, showing why plant-based options are so important to our children. I think 2 weeks ago I saw on social media an article where there was a little boy who was being bullied in school and forced to eat bacon because he was vegan. And while this bill really isn't about veganism itself, it hit me and it stuck with me because I have a 7-year-old son. Back at lunch because he doesn't eat meat, and so sometimes when he goes to school he eats it, and sometimes he doesn't because the people around him feel maybe that he's different or some kind of struggle with how plant-based options are perceived in schools today. You know, this bill, it's about a choice. It's about, as Californians, what we value most is having the right to choose for our family, our children, and their future. It's about bringing food, healthy options to our kids, and about pushing the norm and having plant-based be accepted so that one day my child, who's 7 and who will be 8 this year, who's in our school system, won't have to have his mother and father pack him his lunch every day and feel different. You know, as a father, hearing him tell me when we ask him, why haven't you eaten your lunch today? He says, well, I didn't want people to make fun of me. And it hurts to have him say that. It hurts to have to say that, especially in California where we are so progressive, so compassionate, so ethical. Why this bill is important is because it determines our future. It's about the hope that we want for our children and the impact they'll have on the environment going forward. And it's about a choice as a parent for me to choose. I want my children to eat a certain way, or about them choosing that I don't want to hurt animals. And so I thank every co-sponsor who's involved. Paul Koretz, who's always been such a leader for the animals and who we've worked with on numerous occasions, and it's such a pleasure to see him here, and Assemblymember Nazarian for being so vocal and strong, and we hope to push this forward, and we're getting some celebrities on board and other groups to make a loud splash, and we feel that it's a very passable, needed piece of legislation in California, and so thank you for your time.
And as a fellow parent of 3 children, young children, I completely understand and echo the same sentiment. And now I'd like to introduce Carrie Hammerschlag, Deputy Director of Food and Agriculture Program with Friends of the Earth, where she leads the organization's animal agriculture work, including a climate-friendly food service initiative that aims to shift institutional food purchasing at schools and universities towards healthier, plant-forward, sustainable food.
Great, thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Assemblyman Nazarian. On behalf of Friends of the Earth and our more than 1.7 million supporters nationwide, including 200,000 in California, we are thrilled to support the introduction of the Healthy, Climate-Friendly School Lunch Act that will provide incentives and support for increasing plant-based food options on the plates of more than 6 million kids in California who receive free and reduced lunch. So why is Friends of the Earth supporting this bill? Well, it's very simple. We have a major climate and water crisis, and the scientific evidence is absolutely clear about this. Study after study shows that we cannot solve our climate or our water crises unless we dramatically reduce our meat and dairy consumption and we shift our diets towards plant-based foods. And that doesn't mean that we cut out our meat altogether, but it is clear that the nation's excessive consumption of animal products, starting in schools, is bad for our personal and our planetary health. And yet, for too long, governments have left the food on our plates off the climate policy table. And for too long, our federal government has been supporting environmental damage and overconsumption through massive subsidies to the industrial meat and dairy industries. Our school lunch program is ground zero for these subsidies, where our kids are day after day are fed highly processed, government subsidized meat and dairy foods that take a huge toll on our climate, our health, and our environment. And so it's time for California to provide a counterweight to those environmentally damaging subsidies by providing an incentive to schools to serve climate-friendly, plant-based meals to our kids. And with 540 million lunches served every year, California schools can play a major role in helping the state meet its ambitious climate targets. By incentivizing plant-based meals in public schools, the state can achieve a significant and measurable reduction in food consumption-based greenhouse gas emissions. And that's, of course, because plant-based foods generate far fewer greenhouse gas emissions than pork, chicken, and beef. And in fact, for example, beans and lentils are 26 to 34 times less carbon intensive than beef, and they require far less water. So we've calculated that if every public school swapped out a beef burger for a veggie burger just once a month, it would save 300 million pounds of CO2 a year, and that's equivalent to driving 300 million fewer miles or planting 2 million trees. And that's just one recipe shift. So shifting institutional purchasing towards plant-based foods is a cost-effective climate mitigation strategy. Just as the state is incentivizing electric cars, low-carbon fuels, it should incentivize our large institutional food purchasers to serve low-carbon food. And so some of you will ask, well, will the kids eat it? And Friends of the Earth did a detailed study of the Oakland Unified School District and found that after they reduced their meat purchasing, the kids increased and they served more fresh plant-based foods. The satisfaction from the kids had increased 22%, and their carbon footprint went down 14%. And schools across the state, we've published a report called Scaling Up Climate-Friendly Food. I have copies if you're interested. And many schools across the state are starting to do this, but they need help from this bill, and many other schools can follow suit if they get the help they need from this bill. So thank you very much.
In fact, there are, I believe, 70 schools in LAUSD that have already started this program as well. And through the work that we're going to be carrying forward, I do hope that they end up getting the support they need from the state. It's my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Heather Schenkman on behalf of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. She's a cardiologist practicing in Tarzana with a focus not only on medicines and procedures, but on lifestyle, including diet and exercise, which are so vitally important to heart health. Dr. Schenkman.
Thank you, Assemblymember Nazarian. I'm so excited to be supporting this new bill, which will make healthy plant-based meals more accessible to kids in California. Not only will kids have nutritious options at lunch, but good eating at a young age will help to set them up for a lifetime of healthy habits. And heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. It accounts for 1 in 3 deaths in California. As a cardiologist, I see adult patients daily who are suffering from the effects of a lifetime of poor health food choices. Time and time again, I hear that this is how they always eat. And while it is possible to change bad habits as an adult, it's not easy. We're seeing more health problems related to poor diet in children and in young adults. 1/3 of all United States children struggle with obesity. About 40% of children have elevated cholesterol levels. High blood pressure and type 2 diabetes, problems that we once thought were problems for adults, we're now seeing more often in children. In fact, studies have even found that atherosclerosis, or thickening of the arteries, is something that starts in childhood. The good news is, since healthy habits also start in childhood, we can help kids live longer and healthier lives by providing plant-based options in schools. Plant-based meals are low in saturated fat, free of cholesterol, and packed with vitamins, nutrients, phytochemicals, and fiber. These foods can help prevent childhood obesity, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. Plus, they're delicious. Some California school districts have already successfully introduced plant-based options. Kids right here in the Los Angeles Unified School District love their 3-bean chili, while kids in Santa Barbara dig into lentil soup and Thai green curry bowls. Studies have shown that the more kids are exposed to nutritious foods like these when they're young, the more likely they are to choose healthier foods when they are older. Let's plant this seed today in California schools so that our kids can enjoy a lifetime of good health.
Another wonderful organization that's been a vanguard voice in sponsoring landmark legislation since its founding in 2007 is Social Compassion and Legislation. Their mission is to save and protect our animals and our planet. Their achievements have transcended into the passing of humane animal laws all over the country. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Simone Reyes, Vice President of Social Compassion and Legislation, whom I'm going to have the opportunity to work a second time on a second bill. Simone?
Thank you. Isn't it a joy to live in California? Less than 5 months ago, Governor Jerry Brown signed into law Senator Nancy Skinner's Senate Bill 1138, sponsored by Social Compassion and Legislation, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and Friends of the Earth, requiring that hospitals, healthcare facilities, and prisons offer at least one vegan option at every meal. Based on our collective belief that access to nutritious food that meets health or cultural needs is a basic human right, it only makes sense that we extend this to school children. The next generation will inherit this planet, for better or for worse. Our fate depends heavily on the food that we as a species consume and its effect on our carbon footprint. This bill will promote options to make children healthier, give us a leg up on having a more sustainable future, and reduce the horrendous industrialized animal suffering that has become the new normal on factory farms. Thank you.
Next, well, before I introduce our last speaker, I wanted to take the opportunity also to introduce Rick Namias, who also happens to be a constituent, and also the founder of Food Forward, that has done amazing work in trying to restore the food that unfortunately gets thrown as waste, contributing both to our landfills, but at the same time taking vital opportunity from individuals who can be utilizing the fruits and vegetables. So Food Forward is a wonderful organization, and I'm proud to have them be a part in the efforts that, that we're all leading. Last but not least, we have a extremely passionate and dedicated social compassion and legislation spokesperson. This young advocate chose to go vegetarian at age 3. I don't think I even spoke at age 3. And became a vegan at age 6. By age 10, she had become one of the youngest people to give a TEDx talk. Now she's making international headlines for challenging Pope Francis to go vegan for Lent in exchange for a $1 million donation to the charity of choice. Let's welcome Genesis Butler.
Last year, I went to Sacramento to speak in front of the Senate Hearing Committee to get plant-based options in every nursing home, hospital, and prison in the state. And I am so happy that our leaders agreed that this was something that was needed to pass. And they voted yes on this bill. I think it is just as important to get plant-based meals into schools across the state, because these meals are not only great for the health of kids like me, but they are also great for the planet. My friends and I are sad to hear that humanity only has 12 years to stop climate change. That's why I think it's so important for adults to do what they can to help stop climate change, because my generation deserves a future on this planet. Last month, I got to Skype with Sir Paul McCartney, and he told me we have a responsibility to act now to minimize our impact on this planet. Well, last month I also went to Oxford University to meet with Professor Joseph Poore, and he told me that through his research he discovered avoiding meat and dairy is a single biggest way to reduce our impact on the earth. If we know that we can minimize our impact on the planet by eating plant-based foods, why not do it? I know what you may be thinking. Kids won't like to eat vegan food, or that they think it tastes bad. Well, I can tell you that this is not true. My friends always complain about how gross their school lunches are because their food is always covered in oily cheese and always greasy meat on their plates too. They look at my vegan food I bring to school and ask for some. So I bring extra food because they always eat a bowl of my food and throw theirs in the trash can. I hope everyone will stand behind this bill because it will really have a positive impact on the planet and the health of students. I think this is something we all deserve. Thank you.
I think by 2024, Genesis is going to be leading the charge in re-amending the Constitution so that a presidential candidate could be under 35, and then potentially proceeding with a run. So until then, any questions?
How much funding are you looking for, how state?
So we're still working out the funding. We're looking at seeing how there are given cap and trade funding availabilities, there are funds available through GGFC, and that's one option that we're considering since this is going to be a marriage of health, climate, as well as long-term cost reduction. So we don't have an answer for that yet, but it's something that, those are options that we're considering.
Do you have any idea what support looks like from the governor or your legislature?
With the governor, with the administration, we haven't started the conversations yet. We've had very preliminary conversations. We have been working with some of the agencies, but as for my colleagues, we'll see from the get-go, from the first hearing. I think we've come a long way since Councilman Koretz was in the state legislature. But at that time, bills like this wouldn't get the traction that they needed, but there's a greater level of awareness now. And there are funding mechanisms that can help offer the support necessary as well.
Can you explain what process it's in right now?
So we just introduced the bill yesterday. It's going to be referred by Rules Committee probably within the month. And so the first hearing of this won't be probably until April. And we'll also then know whether it's going to be double referred or how many committees it's going to be referred to. Thank you.
Do you have any plans or programs for those schools to do the taste test?
Believe it or not, there's actually quite a few schools that are already doing it. Right here in LAUSD, LA's Best actually is very much involved in this very program and has been doing it for years through its nutrition and diet programs of teaching kids what tasty meals to put together. So there is practice at this. And it's very critical because it's also a culture changing. As it was mentioned before, you know, we've gotten so used to just one set of meal, one set of dietary, you know, restricting our meal options to one course, and we've been subsidizing it. So we've offered institutional support to a culture, and we've trained a certain culture to just continue moving forward generation after generation without any question. So that's why this bill is going to be challenging the status quo, and it's going to be difficult. But I think it's going to be a necessary first step to also make us rethink through an option, not mandate, of what alternative we have and how we can change the course that will also offer us a long-term healthcare cost benefit as well. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
That doesn't even touch the issue regarding animal ethics and how these animals are treated on factory farms. And as was said today, animal agriculture is the leading emitter of carbon emissions as well.